After last night's win against the Detroit Pistons, the Dallas Mavericks have improved to 27-25, good enough for 6th place in the Western Conference. It was another masterclass by their star player Luka Doncic, who dropped 53 points in the victory. He has been great all season, putting up 33 points per game, but the Mavs' second leading scorer is Christian Wood at 18 points per game. The 15-point difference between their leading and second leading scorer is unacceptable, and it truly feels as if Luka Doncic has little to no help. In accordance with this, it has been reported over the last day or so that the Dallas Mavericks are open to trading just about anyone not named Luka at the 2023 trade deadline. It has even been said they're willing to move Dorain Finney-Smith in a deal for a Luka co-star, who they've been reluctant to take offers on in the past. The fact that the Mavs are above 500 at this point is incredible, and speaks to just how great Luka has been, but it is clear they need a change. It seems like we could see a near fire sale in Dallas to get Luka help. And to understand what that could look like, let's look at Dallas' top available players and then some trade targets they could have. Before we get into the Mavs' top players and their value on the market, if you enjoy my content and have watched a few videos of mine, think about subscribing. 96% of my viewers are actually not subscribed, so if you've watched me before and enjoy the content, drop a sub and comment down below. It really helps the channel. The best player on the Mavs that would be available at the deadline seems to be Christian Wood. He is their second leading scorer at 18 points per game, which has come at an impressively efficient 54% from the field. He is also putting up 8 rebounds and over a block per game and has a solid overall impact. However, his contract is up at the end of the season, and the Mavs don't seem overly interested in paying him this offseason despite just trading for him, so it makes sense that they'd look to move him. Teams that are looking for big man help and willing to spend $20 to $25 million annually on his next deal could look to make a move for him to bolster their rosters. Dallas could call teams like the Hawks, Bulls, and Suns to see if they could pry away another unhappy big man, whether that be John Collins, Nikola Vucevic, or DeAndre Ayton, in some sort of Christian Wood-centered package. Another player that could garner some sizable interest would be guard Spencer Dinwiddie, who, like Wood, is putting up around 18 points per game. He was acquired last trade deadline in the Kristaps Porzingis deal, but doesn't feel untouchable by any means. He's shooting 41% from 3 on over 6 attempts per game, and putting up over 5 assists per game as well. He's having a good season, and his shooting and passing would be well sought after. There are multiple teams who need point guard help right now. The Clippers, Timberwolves, and Heat are all looking for point guard upgrades, and maybe Dallas could get an enticing piece from one of those teams. I don't think he needs to be moved. Solid trade value. He's one of the league's better on-ball defenders, and he's shown in the past he can space the floor a little as well. He's having a down year from behind the arc, shooting only 34%, but was at a 39% clip in each of the 2 prior seasons. Losing his defense could hurt the Mavs, but adding more scoring and shooting in his place could also be helpful. It's already rumored that the Jazz are interested, and if Dallas could pry Malik Beasley, or at a higher level even Jordan Clarkson away from Utah, then they should pull the trigger. They don't seem like great fits in Dallas these days, and there is likely more upside to be found. There will be callers, and Dallas should take a decent offer if it's presented to them. Now let's talk about some high-end trade options. The Mavs need a co-star for Luka Doncic, hopefully one who could be at least a 20-point-per-game scorer in Dallas, which is more than they have now. I mentioned players like Jordan Clarkson and DeAndre Ayton who could cross that threshold, but let's look a little higher than that. The Bulls have been pretty up and down so far this season and feel like a likely seller at the deadline. The Mavs have been linked to Zach LaVine before, and if he becomes available, Dallas should jump on it. He can be a 25-point-per-game scorer next to Luka and would be the best player he'd been with so far in his career. His spacing and athleticism provide an interesting fit next to Luka, and they could create a dangerous scoring backcourt. It could be a little difficult for the Mavs to create a package for LaVine, as they just don't have a ton of assets, but the fit is very interesting. A player on the even more extreme size in terms of money is Bradley Beal in Washington. At $50 million a season and only putting up 22 points per game, I'd be hesitant to make a deal for him, but he has been mentioned, so I thought I'd mention him here as well. However, I'd much prefer LaVine. Players like Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent from Toronto, or even Jeremy Grant from Portland would be a great short-term option, but their contracts all expire after this season, so it would only be a stopgap for Dallas. The Dallas Mavericks are reportedly willing to move any player except Luka Doncic at the trade deadline, and honestly, that should be the case. The team around Luka in Dallas just isn't good enough to get it done, and any upgrade that can be done should be done. It seems increasingly likely that players like Christian Wood, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Dorain Finney-Smith will be moved at the deadline, and Spencer Dinwiddie doesn't feel off the table. Luka Doncic is incredible, and if the Mavs don't surround him with adequate talent, they're only wasting the early part of his prime and risking losing him later on. The Mavs need to make a move at the deadline, and we could see a mini fire sale in Dallas. Thanks for watching. I'm Herm. Have a good one.